This is a piece of news which isn't being talked about enough, and I think it's super important that all of us in the UK pay attention to it. So, over 100 of the UK's biggest charities have sent a message to the Home Secretary saying this: stop blaming immigrants for everything and focus on the real issues that the UK is facing. Now, these are some of the biggest charity organisations across the UK from a range of different sectors. For example, Save the Children, Greenpeace, or Oxfam, and they're all united in this message. So, this is really important. They're saying that the UK government should focus on the real issues and finding solutions to the real problems in the UK, for example, the climate emergency, the housing crisis, or the NHS, instead of putting out performative policies like digital IDs, which aren't really doing any good. And this also raises an important point, which I want to highlight to you guys, because I think it's really important, especially right now, about what narratives or discourses or agendas are dominating the UK debate right now. Far-right politicians like Nigel Farage are framing migration and immigrants and refugees as the main source for all of our problems. They are pushing out this narrative. And this narrative or discourse is amplified then by the mainstream media to a disproportionate amount, to the point where it is the only thing that is being talked about. It is the only thing on the agenda. It is dominating our headlines. And the government is seeing this, and instead of now tackling the real problems in our society, they're just trying to beat reform at its own game, at its own narrative, a game which they inevitably will lose. And now every time we want to talk about the problems of the UK, it is always centered about immigration, refugees, and asylum seekers, when the real issues the evidence consistently points to are things like the growing wealth divide, the collapse of our public services, the climate emergency, but that's not being talked about at all. And this is exactly what media scholars call agenda setting theory, which is when the elites and media decide exactly what we should be talking about, what is on the agenda, what narratives should dominate, even if it's not a problem. In summary, the main point which I'm trying to emphasize to you guys is that the hyper focus on immigration and refugees in the UK distracts us from the real issues that the country is facing. And so we need to shift this conversation, shift the agenda, shift the narrative back to the real issues. And so it's super important that when you see the news and what politicians are talking about and what's dominating the headlines, you be aware of what stories, what agendas, what narratives, and what discourses are dominating, are setting the agenda constantly every single day. And not just looking at those stories, but also looking at what's not being talked about, what agendas, what narratives, what conversations are being hidden from the mainstream. Because often that's where the real issues are that we need to talk about, but often those in power want to distract us away from those issues.